answer this, but just was, I'm sure it's Greg going, how come he doesn't answer?
Good morning, 5-star. We are here with your broker support team, Doug and Tracy.
Morning, gang.
Morning. Yep. So we are excited to talk with you a little bit today for about a half an hour on our 10,000 live stream. Last week we talked about communication, and that is such a broad topic that this week we just wanted to continue that conversation with you. Obviously, the topic of the day is, how do I get my offer accepted? What can I do to help get my offer accepted? And so we're going to talk today about several things that we practice and things that we do to help communicate with the other agent, communicate with lenders. What do we do to try to beef up our offer, make our offer look better, and be able to get that through? So we're going to start with, let's start with Tracy. What's one of the things that you do when you write an offer and you're getting ready to send it over to the listing agent? What would be step one that you do?
Yeah, I would say that you need to do everything you can to get your offer accepted. So I always think about the other agents that I'm working with as my business partners, right? So every time I do represent a buyer or a seller, I have a new business partner. There are new opportunities to meet other agents. There are new opportunities to introduce them to 5-star. There are new opportunities for me to be a pro, for them to see that and look forward to my name coming across their screen again. But yeah, think of them as your business partners, and it's going to be in a different property every time, but it's about building relationships. Building relationships with other agents really begins, if you're a buyer's agent, it begins the moment you set an appointment to go and see that house, right? Don't you guys agree?
Yes.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Yeah,
Yep.
for sure, because the relationship doesn't start at pending. If it starts at pending, I feel like you've really missed a lot of opportunities along the way. Maybe you just got lucky and you never called because you had a cash buyer and they waived everything. But more times than not, those aren't the buyers that we're representing day in and day out. I mean, what does that look like for you, Doug?
Yeah, and gang, we just talked about that just before we got on this call this morning. What you just said about having that conversation with the other agent prior to even, anything beginning, between the time that you schedule the appointment, between the time that you get to the home for the first time. Again, the things that you can do, that you can learn early on in the process, even before putting pen to paper, before jumping on and writing that offer. Again, those things are important. It helps you craft your offer. It helps you open up communication with that other agent. It actually helps you ask the questions that will help dictate the discussion moving forward. So again, to your point, Tracy, about being that business partner, it is a key to what we're doing here. If we want to win, we want that offer accepted, that's where it begins.
Yeah, absolutely. I know for me, one of the first things I do is I call up the listing. So we go see the home, we schedule it, show up at your allotted time. A lot of times you only have 30 minutes and then somebody else is waiting. So we want to be courteous to let them in. And then I will call up the listing agent. And I think it's really important that we come with positivity. We come with confidence though. Like, hey, Tracy, I just showed 123 Main Street. My buyer absolutely loves this home. I know you're probably having a ton of showings. You're going to have all kinds of offers coming in, but I want you to know we want this house. Right? We want this house. My buyer absolutely loves it. So what can I do to write you a very clean offer? And so some of the things we'll open up for conversation. What are the questions we ask? Like, I want to write you a clean offer. Tracy, what would be your next question?
Yeah, so like what's a clean offer, right? So
right.
What's important to your seller?
Right, that's the question, is what's important to your seller. We see some basic things on the listing ticket, right? It might say what possession is. And sometimes between the time they list and the time the offer comes in, maybe the seller's already found a house. They know where they're going. So even though it said 31 to 60 days or 30 days after close, there could be some shift, right? So you're going to want to know, is the seller looking for possession? And if they are they looking for free possessions? And in most cases they are, right? And most of the listing agents are telling us, hey, we're looking for free possession. They'll tell you, but you have to ask the question. So that's a really great one. Does your seller need possession?
I've often said, be careful what you ask, because when you ask the question, sometimes you can get the agent on the other end and they'll tell you sometimes more than you want to know, right? But doesn't that help you win?
No,
It does me, and I'm jotting down notes as quickly as I can so I can share that information with my buyer because it helps position where we're going.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
Kim, I would definitely also be asking other questions like, do you have any offers? How many do you have?
Yeah.
And in most cases, the listing agents have been given permission by their seller to answer these questions. Some of the sellers will say, well, I already have 3 offers and I've got them as high as, $300,000 on a $275,000 house. So I already know when I go back to my buyer, I've got to be able to communicate back to that buyer what I've learned from that seller's agent, because I'm trying to set that buyer up for success. And even though we might not win on this house, because I already know maybe we can't compete based on what I learned from the listing agent, I'm educating my buyer on what this market looks like on this house. And maybe this is their first offer, maybe it's their 3rd offer, but we have to begin to continue to tell the story about what's really happening in the market.
For sure.
So what would I say if Tracy calls me and she asks this very question, so what's important to your seller? What can I do to write you a clean offer? And my response is, Tracy, just do your best, right? Highest and best is due Monday at noon. Just do your best.
Right.
Then what? Then what do you do?
Then that means, okay, let's talk about what kinds of tools I have in the toolbox. This is an agent that's just, she's trolling for offers. She wants the best. The seller has not instructed her to tip her hand as to what she has. So out of the gate, it's got to be our highest and our best, because I feel like, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I never list highest and best. I call for final offers.
Yep.
This market is moving way too fast to be doing highest and best. Who has time to waste writing offers once and then 24 hours writing another one? Out of the gate, your best offer. What kinds of tools do we have in our toolbox? I mean, what, as listing agents, what are you guys seeing?
I talk a lot about financing. I talk a lot about lenders, the importance of who is the lender. Tell me a little bit about your buyer. Tell me a little bit about, and again, it's more of a question than it is back to the seller, because if I got that same answer that you just gave to us, Kim, you didn't tell me a whole lot of anything, did you? Yeah. So the onus is kind of back on me to be able to say, okay, well, let me ask the next question. And it's regarding financing. Tell me a little bit about, because again, that financing question can be, hey, let's talk about lenders. And it maybe gives me an opportunity to say, let's talk about the lender that I'm bringing to the table. I want you to verify my buyer's strength. I want you to have that conversation with them. And again, you want to surround yourself with lenders that you're having conversation with daily. They're reaching out to sometimes the listing agent on your behalf to tell you how strong that buyer really is. In anything that you can do to kind of put that ball in your court so that you can dictate for them, here's the strength of my buyer, here's the lender. Again, I hear lots of agents say, Doug, is it okay to have conversations with my buyer's lender early on? And my answer to that is, it's essential, guys. That should be one of the first calls you make, because you got to get smart about your buyer so that you can obviously articulate that to the seller and the seller's agent. So again, please have those relationships with the lenders as well. Find those lenders that are willing to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just like you as the real estate agent, right? Again, those are people that you want to develop those long-lasting relationships with.
Yeah. Who had the story about the lender that takes his laptop with him? Was that Doug or Kim?
Me. Yeah, I have a lender that I do business with, and he's amazing. And he does work, or he works on the weekends because that's when we work. So although he loves to go out on his boat on Lake Michigan on the weekends, he literally takes his laptop. He said, I update pre-approvals all weekend. And that's one of the reasons he's very successful. I use this lender because I know that he is on top of it. He's going to be there when I need him. He's going to update, and it helps me to be able to be on top of, helping my buyer if things do change fast.
Mhm.
And if I need him to make a call from Lake Michigan from the beach, he will make it.
You will make the
Amen.
call.
Yes,
That's
I
awesome.
always said, when I got in the business 20 years ago and I started, lenders are calling you, will you work with me, work with me? And this is literally what I said to them. You know what? I would love to work with you. As long as you do your job and I don't have to do it, we're great. The minute I have to do your job and call for follow-up and not get updates, I don't want to work that hard, right? Our job is already hard enough. So
Yeah.
you want someone who's really a team member with you that'll be on your team and help you, right?
Yep.
For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Out
Yeah.
of curiosity, you think about how you come in contact with lenders and the people that are sort of standing behind you that help you be successful. I like how Doug used the word essential, because that lender is an essential worker to the transaction, right?
Yeah.
So in my experience, when I got started, I didn't know a lender. I mean, I had a mortgage through Bank of America, and, they're not one of my favorites, and that's who my mortgage was through, right? But I ended up working with 3 pretty consistent lenders all the time, 2 mortgage brokers and 1 banker. And each one of them I met as a result of a relationship that my buyer had with the lender. And then I just connected with them. I saw their work ethic. I saw them at work. I saw their availability. So I was kind of sizing them up. And in the end, 2 of the 3 of them are ones that I would get referrals from routinely. In fact, I helped build a referral business from my business partners. So again, communication is the key in all pieces of this transaction. So what about you guys? Where did you make your connections with your lenders?
Well, I'll go first. It's been a long time since I've made them, but because I started 20 years ago, and so some of them they just continue to go with you. But along the way, I do meet other ones through networking, like
Yep.
Tracy just said, on the other side of the transaction.
Yep.
Sometimes it's hard to choose because we have so many friends in this business, right?
Yep.
So I like to have 3 or 4 in my toolbox, and I'll pass them around, and just depends what they're looking for. So example, last summer I had a buyer that came to me. They were a referral from another client, and they were FHA. And they were with another lender, and the lender was like, they're just FHA. This is what they need. This is the rules. So I always say, let's get another opinion. So I take him over to my guy at Ruoff, and I say, Russ, run this for me. Can you get them conventional? One lender wanted to work didn't want to work very hard. And the other lender said, let me get it for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed. July, they were FHA. August, they were conventional, because the rules change at the beginning of the month. So in August, guess what we did?
Yeah.
We put them under contract conventional, right?
Yeah.
And I had a lead the other day that I passed on to one of my team members. It was a buyer. I don't really run buyers unless they're really strong right now. And she was FHA. This lead was with FHA. They were also with a very publicized commercial lender that we see on TV that's out somewhere in cyberspace, right? I always like local lenders. I want to have a lender that I can call up, go have lunch with, walk into your office, know what's going on. So I gave the lead to this newer agent and said, now your next step is you go call Russ at Ruoff. She texted me that later that day. She's conventional now.
Mm.
So you want someone who will work hard enough to get you that loan, to get terms that you can actually get a deal through. It's so important whether or not you're actually going to be able to get a home for your buyer. Yep.
I couldn't echo that even more. I mean, I use the word essential again, Tracy, here it comes. But again, Kim, the things that you just said, boy, I share those thoughts exactly. The conversations that you have with multiple lenders, and again, I've said the same thing. You're going to find some that'll work their toenails off. They'll do things for you that, again, you just have to have those relationships and be able to give them 2 names, 3 names, do the good faith here, do the good faith here, compare the 2. I'll bet you most of the people watching today did not know what you just said about 1 month there could be FHA, the next month they could be conventional.
Yeah.
I don't think many of us understand that. But again, the reality is that's true. That's
Right.
true. And again, that's where you find those specific lenders you have great relationships with. You're almost talking to them daily about, I mean, even if you didn't have particular buyers to be talking to them about, you're talking to them about the market and what's happening. Because again, as Greg Carlson, our founder, loves to say, you're always a student of the market, right? So you're the professional. You need to make sure that you're listening, learning each and every day. So Kim, I wouldn't take one word out of context, and you just said it. It's perfect. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, I also like the idea of what she just pointed to, which just, is, a piece of what's happening in the market, is that it takes a long time to get somebody under contract. So if you're FHA and that buyer has come to you FHA, what Kim is saying is go to the other lender and see if they can get you under contract. And maybe they can and maybe they can't. But when they can't, what they can say is, here are the tools that you need to work on that maybe in 60 or 90 days, we could flip you from FHA to conventional. And sometimes we've been working with that buyer for maybe 3 to 6 months. Maybe it's time now, because maybe they've been being really good and paying things on time and saving more money and paying down debt, that maybe they're already out of FHA and into conventional, but we're not working with someone who's checking on their behalf, right? Like, who is this lender and how are they helping my client really get to home ownership?
Yep.
Right. I see we have a question from Nick Sparks. He says, as a listing agent, have you called some of the lenders when you review offers? So I'll start, and I want to hear from Doug and Tracy. So a month ago, we just closed this transaction, but I had the buyer, and their lender called the listing agent. So the answer is yes and yes, right? So you can call some of the lenders, but also we had our lender call the listing agent. And out of that conversation, we were up against a 325 cash. And from the listing agent and my buyer's lender talking, who happen to know each other, relationships are really important. So our lender reached out to the listing agent, the conversation started. I never even knew this was happening. I never even knew they were talking. And she was working with our lender to see if we could do X, Y, and Z. And at the end of that, we won. And it was because we had a really good lender in there saying, yes, we can do it. Now, obviously, everything has to be with permission of the buyer, right? Everything that we do, they have to have permission from the buyer or seller. So Doug or Tracy, so have you called some of the lenders when you have an offer?
Trace?
Yep. Yes, absolutely, without question. A lot of times in this market, though, the lenders are calling you.
Yes.
So you already know that they're the kind of proactive kinds of lenders that are working really on behalf of their buyers. And that's probably happening more than, without question, than normal. Sometimes it's an email, but oftentimes it's a phone call. Sometimes I reach them, sometimes I don't. Sometimes they get my voicemail. But you've got to know that most of the time they really can't tell you anything other than, yes, I've checked credit scores, I've checked documentation, I've got tax records, I've got bank statements. They'll tell you those basic things, because we're just looking for more than, did you check their credit score and ask them how much money they make? Because, most lenders are really good. What's that?
Address that. What we don't know the percentage, but how many pre-approval lenders or pre-approval letters come across and they really don't have much weight to it?
Yeah, right? And it's really hard to tell. But again, we have to remember that we are judging, if you will, these offers by what's on paper. That's what's really difficult. So that's another reason to work with a lender who gives you a good pre-approval letter, because you know that when that goes with your offer, you're being judged on what's printed black and white on some paper.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I stress that importance enough. When I have these daily conversations with lenders and they reach out on my behalf, the buyer's behalf, again, I stress the importance of who they are as a lender. Well, you're dealing with Lake Michigan Credit Union. My word, they don't give out pre-approval letters unless you've jumped through this hoop, this hoop, this hoop, and this hoop, right?
Right.
So you can be reassured this thing is ironclad solid. Where the one you got from, and I'll just pick on somebody, Arbor Mortgage, and you got it online at 11 o'clock last night that holds no weight. And there's a real difference there. And sometimes you really have to point those things out to the sellers, to the seller's agent, because again, they know what they know.
Yeah, right.
There's a whole lot they might not know. So,
which brings you also to the communication with your seller. This is one of the ways that I've shown value to my seller, is I will help sort through with you what lender can get this to close.
Yep.
We have relationships with the lenders, right? And that's one of the things when we list a home that we bring value to the table,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And the other thing is too, is just to encourage all of our agents that are writing offers, that I want you to call your lender that you're working with and ask your lender, hey, I just wrote an offer on a house at 123 Main Street. You got a pre-approval. He's going to get paid on this too, right? So
Yep.
he needs to be in it to win it with you.
Yep.
So if they're unwilling to enter in and be a business partner with you, the listing agent, the buyer's agent, the mortgage company, these are all business partners in the transaction, the title people. If they're not willing to walk alongside you and help you and your client win, then maybe you need a new business partner.
That's
Yeah. Let me shift this just another way. So communication. So I have 3 offers in. One, we said that's probably not going to work for us, but I have 2. They're very, very similar. So can I, as a listing agent, call up and counter either one of those offers?
You can do whatever your seller instructs you to do. You can make a suggestion to your seller. The seller can tell you, Kim, I would like you to counter this offer at X price with these terms.
Yep. Yep.
Take
Doug,
direct.
do you ever counter, Doug?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And I do that with the direction of my seller as well, but it comes with much communication. It comes with those, and again, we're talking about everything.
Yeah.
Those 2
I
options.
I don't just have to take what's sitting in front of me, right?
Absolutely not.
So I had a home listed this weekend. We don't do highest and best, but we do, call just all offers due by noon on Monday.
Yep.
So I had 2 that were very similar. And that's where I just, as we've said before, what Tracy, your line is, I give direction.
I give advice, you give direction.
And you give direction. So you just give them advice. And this is the pro of this one. This is the con of this one. And so they really liked this one. They liked this one offer. They were an 80% down. One was 5% down. Still both good buyers. I didn't see any big difference in that. So they really liked this one offer, but they didn't give us an appraisal guarantee and they didn't waive. So I waive inspection. So I took the one offer that was real, that they gave appraisal guarantee and they waived inspections, but they liked buyer A. So I went back to buyer A and said, we really like your offer, but I have one that's a little stronger, but they really like your offer for this reason. And would you be willing to give us a $5,000 guarantee? And would you be willing to waive inspections? You have a pass fail. And she said, well, we're doing pass fail. I said, yes, but some of the objections have been that this house may need a roof. We don't have any problems with the roof, but we don't want to pay for a roof.
Yeah.
And she said, countered. Buyer waives all inspections, $5,000 appraisal guarantee signed. So you can work, you don't have to take what you see. Right? They're coming out. For me, when I'm on the buy side, I say, Tracy, talk to me. What do you want? You want me to waive inspections? Okay. Now you would hope that I did that right out of the box.
Right.
Just tell me what you want. Okay, we'll do it. Right?
Yeah.
Again, it's back to that communication though, gang. It's about making sure that those communications start where? Early on in the process, so that the more you communicate throughout the transaction, does it get easier? Well, the conversations might get a little bit tougher. You don't know, but you're working together.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And I'll tell you, you never really know what your seller is thinking. So I just had a listing over the weekend that was listed for $379,000. I had 2 offers on it. It was a house that needed to be completely renovated from top to bottom, including a roof and everything.
Wow.
But it had location, right? Offer number 1 comes in at $360,000, escalating to $379,900. Offer number 2 comes in $379,900. My seller says, I like offer number 2 better. They're the same offer, right? One escalated to $379,900 and one was $379,900. Why do you think my seller chose offer number 2?
Kim, I got my answer.
I'll let you go because I don't know if I missed the first part of it.
That offer number 2 came up with their final, their highest and best.
Oh, they gave it all.
No escalation clause. They
Yes,
put the best foot forward. They laid it all out there.
Yep.
I would be so inclined to take that offer as well.
Yep,
Yeah,
and that's
I
what they
got
did.
it.
Like
Yeah.
you said, out of the gate, Tracy.
Just give it all.
This guy was banking that nobody was going to give me this much. This guy said, I want it. and I want it so much, I'm gonna give you asking price, right? So we went with offer number 2, and buyer number 1, when he sees what it closes at, he's gonna be like,
Hey, that,
because they were, you know, but you never know what a seller is gonna do, right? I only give advice.
In my opinion, I'm not exactly sure escalation clauses are that amazing this year. Last year, they were amazing. This year, they're not. Like we just said, I had one that escalated to 230 and one that was 230. One was 210, escalated to 230, one that was 230. So the stronger to me was the 230 because they just gave it all. But I think the escalation clauses are only as good as the appraisal, right? So for me, I'm looking first and foremost at what's your guarantee, right? Unless you think we're going to get to that price, I look, then I'm just not even paying much attention to the escalation clauses, but where they are good is when they escalate another offer. Right.
Yep.
So that gets a little complicated, but you have to look at all the details.
so,
But in this market, the guarantee is so important. And that's why I just said on this offer this weekend, they didn't give me a guarantee, but they did give the whole 230.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why we went, like Tracy just said, we went back at it and said, so I think what we're coming around to is ask the question, seller, what are you looking for? Right. We know if it's 200, they're looking for 230, right? They want to close at 230.
Right.
So how are we going to get them there? What's my best guarantee to get them to 230? Well, if somebody gives me 230, but it doesn't, and it appraised at 210, then what do I have? Right.
yeah. And let me say something about we talked early on in this discussion about that clean offer. What do I need to do to write a clean offer? Well, again, the comments that I'm hearing about escalation clauses and guarantees and all of this stuff that you pack into that offer, does that really describe a clean offer to someone? Or are we just putting a lot more into that offer that finally I had a seller yesterday say, Doug, I don't want all of that. Push that all aside. I want to see that person that sees my house for what it is, the value's there, they step up, they write me a clean offer, and lo and behold, that was the one they took. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I've had one previously that was so complicated, my head hurt. I couldn't figure it out. Trying to be really creative, and sometimes it's like that might not always be in the best interest, right? Of our buyer. I wanted to go back before we close up here. I wanted to go back. So when I get the stall or the wall from that listing agent, when they won't tell me anything, I'm just wondering, what do you say back then? So I asked Doug. Doug says, just give your highest and best, do your best, they're all due. Because they think they're being fair, right? They think they're being fair. I don't know if they are, because you still work for your seller. So Doug, when I say that to you, Doug, just give me your highest best by noon. Okay. I know it's a tough market. Give me your best offer. What are you going to say back to me?
I have asked that question 3 times when I get the cold shoulder from the listing agent. I'll say, so, now that we're having this great conversation, tell me again what's important to your seller. Now, I might ask that question 2 or 3 times in that conversation.
Yep.
And find that, yeah, they really are sincere. So maybe I better give them a little bit more or give them a little bit more. And I don't want to use the example of poking the bear, but I tend to poke the bear a little bit. I tend to ask the question again. Hey, so tell me what's important. I really want to know, because my folks really love your house. They really want the house. But again, we want to be able to be there, listen to your seller in terms of what's important, and come alongside. So most of the time when I ask that question over and over again, I get answers. And
you just restate the question.
I don't know. I do. I just ask the same question over again. I don't know if it's an answer to anything, but again, it gets me the answers that I'm looking for, so that then I can come back to my buyer and say, hey, look, finally, I asked the question twice. Here's what they told me. What do we want to do?
I like it. I've heard the saying that when you get a no, it just simply means they need to know more. So you just keep asking, right?
I just keep asking. I'm a little bit, I don't know why it is that way in my mind, but I just keep asking the question until I get something tangible, really, that I can go back to my buyer and say, here's what they said. What do we want to do?
Yeah. That's great advice. Great advice. I would say when I do get the no, and if I just can't get anything out of them, typically, like Doug said, you keep asking, you'll be able to get the conversation open up. Usually I'll start with, you know, are you how many offers do you have? You can get some question out there to get them talking.
Right.
And, but then if I just really can't get anything, I will close it with, well, I just want to let you know. And then I will tell them, and then I will also put it in my notes when I send the offer. And I appreciate that when I receive that from a buyer's agent, just a little recap in their notes when they send it over. My buyer is well approved. The home is not contingent upon selling another home. They're with the local credit union, Lake Michigan Credit Union. They really love the home. You know, anything that you can tell, they have a credit score of X if you have permission to tell that. And anything that you could just say, they are a strong buyer. They've already been through underwriting, whatever you can to just plant that seed, I think is always very, very helpful. But when you get up to 16 offers, the recap with it is also really good, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, exactly.
So, and I've always said, and I wrote these down every time, say it with gusto, say it with energy, say it with enthusiasm. I mean, your need to know when you come across that way, man, there's something about that all of a sudden leads to that better communication.
Yeah, yeah. And again, when does the communication start? It starts at the showing appointment.
Absolutely.
Call, ask questions before you even show up at the door. Introduce yourself. Have that enthusiasm, that gusto that Doug talked about as you begin to build this business. And today you had just added another 30 minutes to your 10,000 hours that Paul is really emphasizing here at 5 Star Real Estate, that we believe it takes 10,000 hours to be a pro. So be a good communicator, make those phone calls, consider them as introductions to your business partners, and continue to build really long-lasting relationships.
Great advice.
Totally
Bid
agree.
you
Great
farewell.
Yeah. All right. If anybody has any questions, you know how to get in touch with us. Give us a call. Thanks for being here. We're always here to help you. We're in your corner. And we hope you all have a great day and go get your offer accepted.
Yes.
Go win,
Thanks,
people.
Kim.
Go
Thanks,
win.
Doug.
See
Bye,
ya.
everybody.
Thanks, Trace.